Hey, what's going on? Jeff Ratcliffe here. It's fantasy football draft season, and that means it's time to talk about some sleepers. Over at Pro Football Focus, we have sleepers for you. We have sleeper quarterbacks, sleeper running backs, sleeper wide receivers. And let's talk about those wide receivers right now. I got 5 names for you. Lots of value at the wide receiver position in fantasy drafts this year. So let's start with Sterling Shepard, New York Giants wide receiver. No more Brandon Marshall. He's out of the mix. He's in Seattle now. So that opens up the number 2 spot for Sterling Shepard. Now, he may not be the number 2 target. There's a lot of mouths to feed there. We know Odell Beckham Jr., he's going to get his. Evan Ingram, he's going to get his. Well, Saquon Barkley's going to get his as well. So it's not like we just automatically assume Shepard, hey, he's the number 2, but he is the number 2 receiver, and he should see his share of targets as well. And you look back to last year, now only 2 touchdowns scored. Okay, that's fine. But he had 3 100-yard games. So the upside is certainly there with Shepard, and he can be gotten as a nice value in fantasy drafts this year. Let's dig a little bit deeper, though, than Sterling Shepard. Let's go out to Los Angeles for the Chargers. Mike Williams, wide receiver. Yes, last year, 7th overall pick in the 2017 draft, and proceeded to do a whole lot of nothing in his rookie season, banged up for a big chunk of it. But speaking of banged up, well, the Chargers lost Hunter Henry in the offseason. Hunter Henry was poised to be a breakout tight end with Antonio Gates. Well, potentially moving on. We don't know what's going to ultimately play out there, but at this point, they got to fill those shoes somehow, so we may see more 3 wide sets out of the Chargers this year, which means Mike Williams could be more involved. And the thing that we know about him, he has height you cannot teach, size you cannot teach. That bodes positively as a red zone asset. And Phillip Rivers, for what it's worth, I mean, he's coming off another strong season, 2nd in the league in passing yards, can still get it done. It's a favorable offense. So Mike Williams, you're not going to have to spend almost anything on him in fantasy drafts. He may even go undrafted in a lot of your leagues, but just keep an eye on him because he has sleeper potential, especially if he gets on the field in 3 wide sets. Let's go to the 3rd name on the list, and that is one of my favorite receivers from this year's draft class, Anthony Miller out of Memphis. Goes to the Chicago Bears, but looking back to what he was able to do at Memphis first, he was extremely productive, and he's only 5'11", so he's not, like Mike Williams, a 6'4" guy, huge, whatever. But he's powerful. He's 5'11", but angry and nasty. Has a little bit of Steve Smith to his game in that regard, where he can get contested catches. He can go up and make plays. In fact, he scored 6 touchdowns last year on contested balls. So he has that. He also, dare I say, has a little Odell Beckham Jr. to his game. Now, he's not necessarily to those guys' caliber, obviously, at this point. But if you want to think what you may have in terms of upside, you get that with Anthony Miller. Not to mention, Matt Nagy's offense is going to be a lot more exciting for the Chicago Bears. Hopefully Mitchell Trubisky taking a step forward as well. So where does Miller fit in? Well, you have Allen Robinson coming back from the ACL. He's slotted in as the number 1. Who's the number 2? It's very likely going to be Miller in that offense. So he's in a favorable situation. Another guy you can get on the cheap on draft day. Now we're going to dig very deep, though, for the final 2. Let's go down to Jacksonville, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Wide receiver, Donte Moncrief, not D.D. Westbrook. Don't listen to the fantasy industry pundits out there who are saying to draft D.D. Westbrook. They're wrong. The number 2 wide receiver in Jacksonville is Donte Moncrief. Marquise Lee is the number 1, but they bring in Moncrief as a free agent. And you know what? He's kind of in some ways, Chris Carter-esque in this era, because all he has done is score touchdowns. He scored a touchdown on 12% of his catches. And just to compare, what does that mean, 12% of his catches? Just to compare, Antonio Brown, who is the GOAT, who is one of the best receivers ever to play the game, has scored a touchdown on 8%. Now, I'm not saying Donte Moncrief is better. Don't go out there and at me on Twitter and say that I said he was better than Antonio Brown. No. But what I am saying is he scores touchdowns. And touchdowns for fantasy are very important. You're getting 6 points a pop. They're very, very important. He comes in as the number 2. And love him or hate him, Blake Bortles, well, he is able to deliver the ball to his receivers and has Well, some touchdown upside. So Donte Moncrief, you're going to be able to get him in the very last rounds of your draft for nothing, for a steal. Him way ahead of D.D. Westbrook. Finally, we have Paul Richardson. You saw him in Seattle. We know he has the upside. He is now in Washington. But what I loved about Paul Richardson in his time with the Seahawks, every time he had the opportunity, the guy went out and made plays. Upside. And that's what you want to see in the NFL. Given the opportunity, make the plays. Now he's going to have more opportunity in Washington, and he also has some stability at quarterback. He goes from Russell Wilson, now he'll have Alex Smith under center for Washington. That's a good thing. It was a good thing for Tyreek Hill last year. The offense has Jamison Crowder as a slot receiver. You have Josh Doxson, but Richardson is going to have the opportunity to be on the field in 3 wide and potentially may get out there in some 2 wide sets as well. More reps, more potential targets, more potential fantasy points. So Paul Richardson, another guy you can get nice and cheap on fantasy draft day. Who's your sleeper wide receiver for 2018? Give us a comment below. Let us know who you got there. And also, subscribe to the channel. We're going to have more fantasy videos coming out, so you'll get those if you subscribe to us right now. And go check us out for all your fantasy football needs at ProFootballFocus.com.